The warning.
Gentlemen, the situation is
Ambassador
critical.
Oraron
We must
stood
act now
before
to
the
secure our
Galactic
future.
Confederation Council with his hands trembling. He had requested this emergency session 3 times before they finally agreed to hear him. Now, as he faced the semicircle of alien dignitaries from 47 different worlds, he wondered if they would listen at all. Honored members, he began, his voice steady despite the fear coursing through him. I come before you today to speak about humanity. About Earth. And about the grave mistake we are about to make. Council member Zephyra, a towering crystalline being from the Helix Nebula, made a sound like wind chimes in a storm. It was their species' version of laughter. Ambassador Oraron, you have spent 10 years observing these primitives. Surely you understand by now that they pose no threat to the Dominion's expansion plans. Oraron's jaw tightened. 10 years. 10 years of watching, studying, learning. 10 years of trying to understand the strange species that called that blue and green world home. And in those 10 years, he had seen things that chilled his blood. That is precisely why I must warn you, he said. I have studied them. I have watched their wars, read their histories, analyzed their psychology. Humans are not like us. They are not like any species in this council. Of course they are different, another council member said, a serpentine creature named Vorthus. They are barely spacefaring. Their ships are slow, their weapons primitive, their governments fragmented. The Dominion fleet will pacify Earth in 72 hours. This is simple mathematics. Mathematics does not account for human nature, Oraron said, his voice rising. He pulled up a holographic display that showed Earth rotating slowly in the center of the chamber. Yes, they are divided. Yes, they fight among themselves. But that is what makes them dangerous. Do you know what happens when you threaten a human's home? Silence. They stop fighting each other, Oraron continued. I have seen it happen dozens of times in their history. When an outside force threatens them, when someone dares to take what they believe is theirs, they transform. Old enemies become allies. Bitter rivals share weapons and technology. The divisions that seemed permanent vanish overnight. Zephyra's crystalline form pulsed with dismissive light. So they unite. Many species unite in the face of invasion. It does not save them. Oraron shook his head slowly. You do not understand. It is not just that they unite. It is what they become when they unite. Humans have a concept they call total war. When they engage in it, their entire civilization becomes a weapon. Every factory produces ammunition. Every citizen becomes a soldier. Every scientific mind focuses on one goal, victory. He changed the holographic display to show images from Earth's history. Burning cities. Massive armies. Mushroom clouds rising into atmosphere. This is Dresden, Oraron said, pointing to ruins. This is Hiroshima. This is Stalingrad. Humans do not just fight wars. They wage them with an intensity that borders on madness. They will burn their own cities to deny them to the enemy. They will sacrifice millions to hold a single position. They will invent weapons capable of destroying their own planet just to ensure their enemy cannot have it. Barbaric, Vorthus hissed. Perhaps, Oraron agreed. But effective. In their Second World War, they lost over 70 million lives. 70 million. And they kept fighting. They fought in deserts where temperatures could kill in hours. They fought in frozen tundra where metal froze solid. They fought in jungles filled with disease and in cities reduced to rubble. And they did not stop until their enemies surrendered unconditionally. He paused, letting the weight of those numbers sink in. The Dominion believes Earth will surrender quickly to avoid casualties, Oraron continued. But humans do not think like we do. They have a saying, give me liberty or give me death. They mean it literally. Throughout their history, humans have chosen death over submission again and again. They would rather die free than live as slaves. Council member Thraxus, an aquatic being whose tank bubbled with agitation, spoke for the first time. Even if this is true, their technology is centuries behind ours. What does their willingness to die matter when our shields can deflect their weapons and our ships can destroy their cities from orbit? Orreron felt exhaustion wash over him. They were not listening. They were not truly hearing what he was trying to tell them. Because humans do not accept limitations, he said quietly. When you tell a human something is impossible, they take it as a challenge. They went from their first powered flight to landing on their moon in 66 years. 66 years. They split the atom. They mapped their own genetic code. They built machines that think. And they did all of this while fighting wars among themselves. He zoomed the hologram in on Earth's major cities. Billions of lights twinkled in the darkness. Down there right now are 8 billion humans. Most of them will never fight in a war. But when the Dominion arrives, when those warships appear in their skies, something will awaken in them. Something ancient and terrifying. The same thing that drove their ancestors to survive ice ages and plagues. The same thing that made them the apex predators of their world despite having no claws, no fangs, no natural armor. Orreron's voice dropped to barely above a whisper. Do not invade Earth. Please. I am begging you. They will not surrender. They will fight until every city is ash and every human is dead. And they will take the Dominion fleet with them. This will not be a conquest. It will be a bloodbath that shames us all. The council chamber fell silent. For a moment, Orreron thought he had reached them. For one brief moment, he believed they might listen. Then Zephyr spoke. Your concerns are noted, Ambassador Orreron. However, the Dominion has made its request for expansion rights official. Earth lies within the designated zone. The Council votes now on whether to approve the conquest. Orreron watched helplessly as the votes appeared on the central display. One by one, the Council members approved the invasion. 43 in favor. Only 4 opposed. It was done. The Dominion is authorized to proceed with the pacification of Earth, Zephyr announced. They may begin operations immediately. Orreron looked up at the hologram of Earth one last time. That beautiful blue world spinning peacefully in the darkness. He thought of all the humans down there, going about their lives, unaware that their entire existence was about to change. Then may the ancestors forgive us all, he whispered. We have just started a war that none of us are prepared to fight. He turned and walked out of the chamber, his warning ignored, his pleas dismissed. Behind him, the council moved on to other business as if they had not just signed the death warrant for millions of lives. But Orreron knew the truth. He had studied humanity. He understood what was coming. The Dominion thought they were invading a primitive world. They had no idea they were about to wake a sleeping giant. And once awakened, humanity would not rest until every ship that threatened their home was nothing but debris floating in the void. The war had not started yet. But it was already too late to stop what was coming. Far above Earth, in the cold darkness of space, Orreron returned to his observation post and began to pray. Not for humanity. For everyone else. The arrival. The Dominion fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of Earth's solar system like a swarm of metallic locusts. 2,000 warships, each one larger than Earth's biggest aircraft carriers, hung in the void with their weapons charged and their shields gleaming. It was the largest invasion force the Dominion had ever assembled. They expected to need less than half of it. Fleet Commander Krothos stood on the bridge of the flagship Inevitable, his 4 eyes scanning the tactical displays with satisfaction. Earth hung in the distance, a small blue marble that seemed utterly insignificant compared to the armada surrounding it. All ships report ready status, his tactical officer announced. We can begin orbital bombardment on your command. Krothos nodded slowly. The plan was simple and had worked on 17 other primitive worlds. Destroy their military installations from orbit. Eliminate their communication networks. Show them the futility of resistance. Within days, their leaders would surrender, and the Dominion would have another colony world. Broadcast the surrender terms, Krothos ordered. Standard format. 15 minutes to respond. The message went out across all frequencies, translated into Earth's major languages by the fleet's computers. Krothos expected panic. He expected chaos. Perhaps some of the more aggressive nations would fire their primitive missiles, which would be effortlessly destroyed by point defense systems. What he did not expect was silence. For 14 minutes, Earth was utterly quiet. No transmissions. No weapons fire. No response at all. Then, at exactly 14 minutes and 30 seconds, every communication channel on Earth came alive at once. A single word, broadcast from every radio tower, every television station, every internet connection, every satellite. No. Krothos blinked his 4 eyes in confusion. Clarify that transmission. His communications officer worked frantically at her console. Sir, it appears to be a unified response from all major governments. They are refusing surrender terms. Already? Krothos felt the first flicker of surprise. Most species took days to coordinate a response. Send a follow-up message. Explain the consequences of resistance. The second message went out. This time, the response came even faster. We understand the consequences. Our answer is still no. You are not welcome here. Leave our system immediately or we will consider it an act of war. Krothos actually laughed. The sound echoed through the bridge. They think they can threaten us. Begin the bombardment. Target their military installations first. Show them what resistance costs. The fleet moved into attack formation, spreading out across Earth's orbital space. Weapon systems locked onto targets. Kinetic bombardment cannons charged with enough energy to level mountains. Then Earth's defenses came online. From hidden silos across every continent, missiles erupted into the sky by the thousands. Not the primitive chemical rockets the Dominion expected, but something else. Something faster. The fleet sensors screamed warnings as the missiles split apart in the upper atmosphere, each one releasing dozens of smaller warheads that accelerated impossibly fast. Evasive maneuvers. Krothos shouted, but it was already too late for the forward ships. The first wave of human missiles struck 3 Dominion cruisers. The warheads were crude by galactic standards, simple nuclear devices that should have been stopped by shield systems designed to withstand plasma cannons. But the humans had not fired 1 warhead per ship. They had fired 50. The first 20 warheads depleted the shields through sheer kinetic impact. The next 30 got through. 3 cruisers vanished in blossoms of atomic fire. Krothos stared at the tactical display in disbelief. How did they? Second wave incoming, the tactical officer screamed. Thousands of them. The missiles came from everywhere. From land, from sea, from submarines hidden in the oceans, from mobile launchers racing across highways. The humans were firing everything they had in a desperate, massive first strike. The Dominion fleet's point defense systems came alive, filling the space around Earth with laser fire and interceptor drones. Hundreds of missiles died in the void, then thousands. But there were so many. Too many. More ships took hits. A destroyer lost its engines and began tumbling through space. A carrier's hull breached, venting atmosphere and crew into the void. A battlecruiser's reactor went critical and exploded, taking 2 nearby frigates with it. Return fire. Krothos bellowed. Destroy their launch sites. Orbital bombardment began in earnest. Kinetic rounds fell from the sky like the fists of angry gods, striking military bases across the planet. Each impact released more energy than the largest nuclear weapon humanity had ever built. But for every launch site destroyed, 2 more missiles flew. The humans were launching from mobile platforms now, from trucks and trains and ships. They were firing from civilian areas, from cities, from places the Dominion fleet hesitated to target for fear of violating galactic warfare conventions. Krothos realized with growing horror that the humans did not care about conventions. They were fighting without rules, without honor, without any concern for the cost. On Earth's surface, the transformation Orion had warned about was already complete. In Beijing, Moscow, Washington, London, Delhi, and every other capital, old enemies spoke on secure channels with a unity that would have been unthinkable 24 hours earlier. Nuclear launch codes were shared. Military satellites were networked into a single defensive grid. Fighter jets bearing different flags flew in the same formations. In factories across the planet, production lines that had made cars and appliances yesterday were being retooled to make ammunition and weapons today. Engineers who had designed smartphones were now designing electronic warfare systems. Civilians who had never held a gun were lining up at recruitment centers by the millions. The people of Earth watched the battle in their skies with something between terror and fury. They saw their cities burning from orbital strikes. They counted their dead in the thousands, then tens of thousands. And they did not break. They got angry. In the ruins of what had been Colorado Springs, an American general stood in an emergency command bunker and coordinated with his Chinese counterpart via video link. 20 years of military rivalry vanished in the face of the ships overhead. "We are launching everything from our eastern facilities," the Chinese general said. "Can you cover the western approach?" "Already done," the American replied. "The Russians are hitting them from the north. The Europeans have their rail guns online. We are throwing everything at them. How long can we maintain this rate of fire?" The American general looked at the casualty reports flooding his screen. "As long as we have to." They wanted Earth. Let us show them what that costs. In orbit, the Dominion fleet was discovering that cost firsthand. 30 ships destroyed. 50 more damaged. The humans kept firing, kept fighting, kept refusing to acknowledge that they were outmatched. Krothos watched his fleet shrink on the tactical display and felt something he had never experienced in 20 years of military service: doubt. "Sir, we are taking unsustainable losses," his tactical officer reported. "We need to withdraw to a safer distance and reassess." Withdraw? Krothos could not believe what he was hearing. "We outnumber them 100 to 1 in tonnage. Their weapons are primitive. They should be surrendering, not." An alert klaxon screamed across the bridge. On the main display, something new appeared. Something that made Krothos's blood run cold. The humans had launched their space stations. Not evacuated them. Launched them. The International Space Station, the Chinese Tiangong, every orbital platform humanity had built, came hurtling toward the Dominion fleet like massive kinetic weapons. They had strapped rockets to their own space infrastructure and turned it into ammunition. "They are insane," Krothos whispered. One of the stations, still spinning from its original orbit, crashed into a Dominion battleship at 17,000 kilometers per hour. The impact tore through the ship's shields like they were paper and ripped the vessel in half. "Fleet Commander, we must withdraw," his second-in-command insisted. "This is not a battle. This is a meat grinder." Krothos stared at Earth, at that blue world that refused to die quietly. He thought of the Council's assurances that this would be easy. He thought of the invasion plans that assumed human surrender within 72 hours. They had been in Earth's space for 3 hours. He had already lost 42 ships. "Pull back to lunar orbit," he ordered, his voice hollow. "Reform the fleet. We need to reconsider our approach." As the Dominion ships retreated, breaking off their attack and accelerating away from Earth, something unexpected happened on the planet's surface. The humans did not celebrate. They reloaded. In bunkers and command centers across the planet, military leaders looked at the tactical data and understood what the Dominion fleet did not yet realize: that first engagement was not a victory. It was a message. Earth could be conquered, but it would cost more than anyone was prepared to pay. Ambassador Oraron watched the battle from his observation post with tears streaming down his face. He had tried to warn them. He had begged them to listen. Now he could only watch as the war he had feared unfolded exactly as he had predicted. The Dominion fleet regrouped near the moon, licking its wounds and planning its next assault. On Earth, humanity did the same. Neither side knew it yet, but this was only the beginning. The real war had not even started. And when it did, the galaxy would learn what Oraron already knew: humanity did not fight to survive. They fought to win. And they would never, ever stop the reckoning. Fleet Commander Krathos had been a soldier for 30 years. He had pacified rebellions on 4 different worlds. He had commanded fleets in 3 major campaigns. He had never, not once, called for reinforcements. Until now. "Command, this is Fleet Actual," he spoke into the secured channel, his voice carefully controlled. "I am requesting additional forces for the Earth operation. Current fleet strength is insufficient." The response came back 12 hours later from Dominion High Command, located 3 star systems away. The voice carried barely concealed amusement. "Fleet Commander Krathos, you have 2,000 warships. The largest invasion force ever assembled. Are you seriously requesting more ships to conquer a pre-contact civilization?" Krathos looked at the casualty reports on his display. 68 ships destroyed in the initial engagement. Another 34 so badly damaged they had to be sent back for repairs. More than 5% of his fleet gone in 3 hours. "Yes," he said simply. "Send everything you can spare." The intelligence reports were wrong. Humanity is not going to surrender. There was a long pause on the other end. Then, "Hold position at lunar orbit. Reinforcements will arrive in 14 days. Do not engage until they arrive." 14 days. Krathos looked at Earth, that blue marble that had already cost him more ships than the last 3 campaigns combined. 14 days to watch and wait while the humans prepared for the next round. He had a feeling those 14 days would change everything. On Earth, the world transformed. The attack had lasted 3 hours. The aftermath would last forever. Entire cities had been hit by kinetic bombardment. Millions were dead. Infrastructure was shattered. But something had changed in humanity that could never be undone. The old world died in those 3 hours. What replaced it was something harder, sharper, unified by purpose. In Geneva, the emergency session of the newly formed Earth Defense Council met in a bunker 300 meters underground. Representatives from every major nation sat around a table that had not existed 48 hours ago. "They are regrouping," the American Secretary of Defense said, studying satellite imagery. "They pulled back to lunar orbit. Our best estimate is they are waiting for reinforcements." "How long do we have?" asked the Russian defense minister. 2 weeks. Maybe 3. "Then we use every second," said the Chinese premier. "We have proven we can hurt them. Now we must prove we can destroy them." The Indian defense minister leaned forward. "Our scientists have been analyzing the wreckage from the ships we destroyed. Their technology is advanced, but not impossible to understand. We can adapt." "Adapt how?" asked the European Union representative. "Their shields operate on a rotating frequency," a young physicist explained, her hands shaking as she addressed the most powerful people on Earth. "They are strong, but they have a refresh cycle. Hit them hard enough, fast enough, and the shields collapse before they can recalibrate. That is why our missile swarms worked." "So we need more missiles," the American said. "More everything," the Russian corrected. "More missiles, more guns, more soldiers, more ships." "Ships?" The Brazilian representative looked skeptical. "We do not have ships that can fight in space." "Not yet," the Chinese premier said. "But we have rockets. We have satellites. We have engineers who can work miracles when the alternative is extinction. We build ships. We build them fast, and we build them angry. Over the next 14 days, Earth became a single factory. Every nation contributed what it had. The Americans provided their advanced computer systems and satellite networks. The Russians gave their heavy manufacturing capacity and their experience with hardened military technology. The Chinese offered their massive production infrastructure and rare earth minerals. The Europeans contributed their precision engineering and robotics. India shared its space program expertise and scientific talent. But it was not just the governments. It was everyone. In Detroit, an auto factory that had been running for 80 years retooled its entire production line in 36 hours. Where cars had rolled off the assembly line, now came missile components. The workers pulled double shifts, then triple shifts. Some did not go home at all. In Bangalore, software engineers who had been writing code for banking apps reprogrammed themselves overnight. Now they wrote guidance systems for weapons, electronic warfare packages, anything that could give Earth's defenders an edge. In Sao Paulo, a grandmother who had survived poverty, dictatorship, and personal tragedy organized her entire neighborhood to produce first aid kits for soldiers. Within a week, her small apartment building had become a logistics hub supplying half the city. The stories repeated across the planet. A teenager in Lagos used his gaming computer to help crack Dominion communication protocols. A fisherman in Japan retrofitted his boat to lay underwater mines. A teacher in Cairo turned her school into a training center for civilian defense volunteers. Humanity had awakened, and it was terrifying. In orbit around the moon, the Dominion fleet watched and grew increasingly uneasy. "They are not rebuilding," Krathos's intelligence officer reported. "They are building new. Look at this." The holographic display showed Earth's orbit. In 14 days, the humans had launched 73 new satellites. Not communication satellites. Weapon satellites. Each one bristling with missiles and kinetic weapons. How? Krathos demanded. They should not have the manufacturing capacity to. "They are cannibalizing everything," the intelligence officer interrupted. "Commercial satellites, space stations, everything in orbit that is not a weapon is being stripped for parts. And they are launching new materials at a rate that should be impossible. Every spaceport on the planet is firing constantly." Krathos studied the data with growing dread. What about their ground forces? Growing exponentially. Every nation has instituted mandatory service. They are training civilians in basic combat. Their factories are producing small arms at a rate of 500,000 per day. Combined. Globally. That cannot be sustainable. No, the intelligence officer agreed. But they do not need it to be sustainable forever. They just need it to be sustainable long enough to bleed us. On the 13th day, the Dominion reinforcements arrived. Another 1,000 ships dropped out of hyperspace, doubling the invasion fleet's size. Krathos should have felt confident. Instead, he felt like he was watching a disaster unfold in slow motion. "All ships, battle formation," he ordered. "We will overwhelm them with a simultaneous strike on all continents. They cannot defend everywhere at once." The plan was sound. The execution was flawless. 3,000 warships moved into position around Earth, each one targeting multiple sites simultaneously. When the bombardment began, it would be devastating, unstoppable, final. Krathos gave the order. "All ships, open fire." For 5 seconds, it looked like the plan was working. Thousands of kinetic rounds and energy weapons lanced toward Earth's surface. The humans' orbital defenses engaged, but they were outnumbered, outgunned, overwhelmed. Then Earth fired back. Not with missiles this time. The humans had learned. They had adapted. They had built something new. From hidden facilities on the dark side of the moon, from asteroids the humans had hollowed out and turned into weapon platforms, from satellites that had looked defunct but were actually sleeping, came a new kind of weapon. Rail guns. Massive electromagnetic accelerators that had been assembled in secret over the past 14 days. Each one could fire a tungsten projectile at a significant fraction of light speed. The projectiles were not explosive. They did not need to be. At those speeds, kinetic energy alone was devastating. The first rail gun shot went straight through a Dominion battleship's shields like they were not even there. The tungsten rod, moving at impossible speeds, punched through the ship from bow to stern and kept going, hitting 2 more ships behind it before its energy finally dissipated. Evasive maneuvers. Krothos screamed, but the rail guns were already firing again. The battle became chaos. The Dominion fleet's numerical advantage meant nothing when the humans could kill 3 ships with 1 shot. Their superior shields were useless against weapons that moved too fast for the generators to react. And the humans kept firing. They fired until the rail guns overheated and exploded. Then they fired from new positions that the Dominion had not even known existed. Krothos watched his fleet dissolve around him. 100 ships gone in the first minute. 200 in the first 5 minutes. The humans were not trying to win a conventional battle. They were fighting a war of attrition, and they were willing to trade anything, sacrifice anything, destroy anything to make the invasion too costly to continue. All ships, emergency withdrawal. Krothos ordered. Jump to hyperspace immediately. But the humans had one more surprise. During the 14-day pause, Earth's best physicists had studied the wreckage of destroyed Dominion ships. They had learned how the hyperspace drives worked. And they had built jammers. Across Earth's orbital space, powerful electromagnetic pulses erupted from hidden platforms. The pulses were crude, inefficient, and would probably only work once. But they worked. The Dominion fleet's hyperspace drives failed to engage. They were trapped in Earth's gravity well with an enemy that refused to die. Conventional engines. Krothos shouted. Get us out of weapons range. The fleet began accelerating away from Earth, fighting to reach the edge of the system where the jammer's effect would fade and they could jump to safety. It took 3 hours of running battle, 3 hours of constant human attacks, 3 hours of watching ships die. When the fleet finally jumped to hyperspace, Krothos had started with 3,000 ships. He had left Earth's system with 1,800. 40% casualties. The worst defeat in Dominion military history. And as the fleet limped away, a transmission came from Earth. It was broadcast on all frequencies, in the Dominion's own language, so there could be no misunderstanding. You came to our home. You attacked our people. You thought we would surrender. You were wrong. We do not care how many ships you have. We do not care how advanced your technology is. We do not care if you burn every city and kill every soldier. We will never stop fighting. We will never surrender. And if we die, we will make sure we take you with us. This is our world. And we will defend it until the last human draws their last breath. Come back if you want. We will be waiting. Ambassador Orreron listened to the transmission from his observation post, and despite everything, he smiled. He had tried to warn them. He had told them exactly what would happen. The Dominion had not listened, and now they had learned what every other species in the galaxy would soon discover. Humanity was not just another spacefaring species. They were something new, something terrifying, something that would change the balance of power across the stars. They were survivors. They were fighters. They were a species that had clawed their way to the top of their world's food chain through sheer stubborn refusal to die. And now they had been introduced to the galaxy through violence. Orreron knew what came next. The Dominion would go back to the Galactic Confederation. They would demand support for another invasion. And the Council would have to decide, abandon Earth, or commit to a war that might never end. But Orreron also knew something else. Something he had learned in his 10 years of studying humanity. Humans did not wait for their enemies to come to them. They hunted. Already, he could see it in the transmissions from Earth's surface. The humans were not celebrating their victory. They were building. They were learning. They were preparing to take the fight beyond their own star system. The galaxy had tried to conquer Earth and failed. Now Earth was about to conquer the galaxy. Not through force, but through something more powerful, the sheer, unstoppable determination to survive and thrive no matter what the universe threw at them. Orion looked at the blue world one last time, that beautiful planet where humanity had emerged from caves to reach for the stars. "May the ancestors help us all," he whispered. "We have awakened them. And now nothing will ever be the same." On Earth, 8 billion humans looked up at the stars with new eyes. They had learned they were not alone in the universe. They had learned there were threats beyond their world. And they had learned they could fight back. The age of human expansion was about to begin. The galaxy was not ready. But humanity did not care. They had never cared about whether others were ready for them. They only cared about one thing: survival, victory, and the absolute refusal to kneel. The Dominion had wanted Earth. Instead, they had given humanity a reason to reach for the stars. And the stars would never be the same.